We are in the lobby of the Clarion Hotel in Madison, Wisconsin. It's March 13th, 9:00 a.m. Again, this is the annual meeting of the Friends of Wabikimi. This is required by our bylaws and the Ontario Corporations Act. Actually, the people who are eligible to vote have to have been a member 45 days before the annual meeting, which puts you back in January 27th. We are trying to control, we don't want to be bombed. And so if you're on the internet, you're going to have to raise your hand or send us a chat. Otherwise, you will be muted. We may have time at the end of the meeting to give you an opportunity to speak up, but for the time being, chat is the only way to communicate. And the meeting is being recorded. Friends of Wabikimi. We are an international organization. We are actually incorporated in Canada. The corporate office is in Thunder Bay. A board of directors by Ontario law has to be 25% have to be citizens of Canada. And currently the membership of the organization is split pretty equally between Canadians and Americans, with 2 Europeans. We have a total of 258 people that are members. Because of that, our distribution system, we have people on the north side of the border. Debbie is our distribution manager on the north side, and Bill Pyle is on the south side, just because of the cost of sending stuff across the border. We also have, under Ontario law and our bylaws, we have a board chair, and that board chair is Dave McTeague, and he's here. He's hiding. He's off to my left. Yep, and he's wearing his. Always to your left. He's always to my left, and he's wearing his Friends of Wabikimi hat. So I'm being properly supervised today. And I am Vern Fish, the actual president. And the oddity of our bylaws is that Dave runs our monthly meetings, but I get to run one meeting a year. So this is my moment. I'm going to take full advantage of it. You're going to see this a lot. Our vision is that Wabikimi will be an exceptional wilderness destination, and our mission is we're going to advocate for the protection and preservation of the diverse resources of the Wabikimi area. This is our agenda today, and the first thing we have to do is establish if we have a quorum. So your question is, how do we establish a quorum? Well, according to our bylaws, we have to have 20% of our membership at the meeting. And if you do the math on that, that means we have to have 51.6. I'm going to round up. So we have to have 52 people. We can do that by proxy and people attendance. And I'm going to ask MJ, who's sitting to my right, you have the pile of proxy votes that were sent in advance. How many proxy votes do we have, MJ?
We have 64.
We have 64. And Mr. McTeague, how many people do we have in the room?
A bunch.
Which, 18?
That sounds right.
18. So I'm going to declare that we have a quorum when you add up both the proxy votes and the people present. So the meeting will proceed. Yeah, there's the magic number. So, and I'm going to quickly walk through an introduction of board members. Again, under Ontario law, 25% must be Canadian citizens. Mary Blaisdell, MJ, is to my right. She's in the room. Doug Blunt is from Illinois. He's actually in the room today. Victoria lives in Alberta. She is not here today. Her husband, Ian, is in Alberta. He is not here today. Tetsi lives in Ontario. She is not here today. Vern Fish is here from Waterloo. I believe John Holmes
Is online.
was online. Okay. Did I miss any of the other board members that were online? Was Tetsi online, or Victoria or Ian? I kind of
I
flew.
don't think
I'm
so.
looking.
Okay. I kind of,
No.
all right. Thank you. But John
Wait,
Holmes is.
Victoria.
Victoria's.
Victoria's here. I apologize. Victoria is online. Ferry McFarland is online, I believe. So she is here. Dave McTeague is in the room. Is Maurice here? Online?
No.
No, Maurice is not online. Ray is not.
Ray DeBoer?
Yeah, no, Ray Talon. He's en route. He's in Madison. He just isn't in the room. Is Randy online?
No.
No.
Okay, Randy is not online. Okay, but if you want more information about the board members, there are photos and a brief biography. It can be found on the website, and that's the email address for our website. So if you want to know more about board members, and I know we have some past board members, Ken Babachek is out there. And I'm not going to do too much more time, but thank you, Ken, for being here tonight. He's out in Nova Scotia. Ken gives us that 5th time zone, the Atlantic time zone. So that Ken is special in so many ways, but that's another way that he's special. Okay. We have an agenda, and which you see in front of you. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right. With the record will note that Berlin moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And that was Doug Blunt that seconded. So I'm going to say we have authorization to move forward with the agenda. It has been approved. Adoption of minutes from the 2020 annual meeting prepared by John Holmes. There should be, hang on, you have copies in the room. There were copies online. And I'm going to admit this is really hard to read if you're looking at the screen. But if there are no questions about the minutes from the meeting of April 4th, 2021, which we did online because of COVID, I would take a motion to accept the minutes as presented by John Holmes.
So moved.
All right, Berlin made the motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Scott. Okay. So we had a motion, we had a second. Motion approved. Election of officers. Annual meeting, members presented or represented may select up to 15 officers. And so what we have here, this is the current board and their slate of service. So Mary, Tetsi, and Randy are good till 2023. And here they are. And then in blue are the folks that are good till 2024, which includes myself, John Holmes, Dave McTeague, Victoria, Ian, and Maurice. Handsome group here. And there's Maurice. His beard has gotten bigger. Much bigger. And then the group in red, these are people that are on the board who have agreed to serve another term, plus Ms. McFarland, who is our newest board member. So what you're voting on are the 3 candidates in red. And Doug, would you like to share a few thoughts about why you want to run for another term, if you would, since you're in the room?
Well, I've been involved for several years. Turns out, past president, 2 years ago, rival history here. I can't believe the great things that the present board has accomplished in the last 2 years, in spite of not being able to get together, et cetera. And I'd be delighted to be able to continue in that effort.
Okay. Ray is not here, but I see that Ms. McFarland, if we could unmute Ferry and allow her to actually talk, if she'd like to say a few words.
Who is that?
It's the right McFarland, Ferry.
Right here.
Yep. If you would unmute her.
Hold, what's your first name? Mari, okay.
It was Fair. I believe it's
I got her, I
Ferry.
got her.
Hang on. We're going to get you unmuted and we'll let you speak if you'd like to.
Okay, can you hear me now? Looks like I'm unmuted.
Yes.
Great, thanks. Thanks so much for having me today. I'm really excited to join the board of Friends of Wabikimi. I'm a professional conservation biologist in Ontario, Canada. Had the opportunity to visit Wabikimi in the surrounding area last summer on a canoe trip. So super keen to learn more about that landscape and work out how I can contribute via Friends of Wabikimi to conserving and raising awareness about the great places that includes. So I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And again, Ray is en route. Does anybody want to say kind words about Ray? Dan Otto, would you say kind words about Ray as to why he should continue serving as a board member?
Oh, well, he's fully committed to Wabakimi.
Well, we got to keep the doors open, otherwise they can't get in. That might be Ray right there.
It better be. That door's unlocked.
Yeah.
There's
Oh, no, wait, yeah. Yeah. Ray, you need to tell us why you want to serve another term, please.
No, you can unlock it.
Ray, you need to tell us why you want to serve another term.
Yes.
Yeah, it's too late. You're on the left.
Because I appreciate all the work that conservation.
Okay, all right. Right, with that said, well, and there's Doug, there's Ray, and there's Ms. McFarland.
Tetsi is here now too.
And Tetsi is here. Oh, okay, all right. So what I need is a motion to approve the slate of board members as presented. Can I have a motion from the floor for that?
I'll motion it.
Okay, I got, who did that? I got, oh, Maurice is here.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So Maurice, and then I'll take the second from Bill. Okay,
Bill was first.
all right, well, then I'll take Maurice as the second.
Maurice is unmuted. You unmuted him.
I did, no.
Okay,
Somebody did.
Maurice, we're gonna remute you if that's all right, so.
I can mute him.
Okay.
Mute Maurice.
So we had a motion, and the motion, all in favor, say aye. All right, thank you. I kind of failed on that other piece. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, I can't remember. I got 62 proxy votes. I've already got, I don't need your votes, guys. I don't know how to, I don't know how to break this to you, but I got.
I think I got another person here. Ken Babbitt, check.
He was already there.
He's
Yep.
already done.
Okay.
Yeah, but he wants to
Oh,
Say something.
say something.
go ahead. Let him in then.
No, he's just waving.
Oh, okay.
Is that what it is?
I think so.
All
That's
right,
my
what
vote.
Oh, he moved, I think. Okay.
No, I voted.
Voted. Thank you. He
Oh,
voted.
voted,
Yep,
okay.
there we go.
Oh, okay.
The financial statement, as I said, was on the table. And again, I can put it on the screen, but you really can't see it. So what I'm going to try to do is summarize it. So bear with me. The real quick dirty summary is the balance sheet, and which really says that total assets for the organization, including cash and inventory, is 26,147.10 Canadian. Going back and forth on that. We have, so of that total, about 7,000 plus is the maps and the guidebook and the materials that we're selling both at the booth and online. But we have almost 19,000 in cash Canadian. So our total value is 26 and change. We have no liabilities. We don't owe any money. And so therefore, that's where we come up with a number. Now, let me break this down a little bit more. All right, so we started out, opening balance was 16,000. And again, we finished the year with 26,000. Most of our annual funding comes from membership dues, map and guidebook sales. Our membership has climbed from 117 to 258. So we have membership revenue. Oh, there we go. And I jumped a little bit ahead there. This gets a little complicated, but we did raise money for Ontario Parks for the legacy debris cleanup. But the money was raised in 2020, was not transferred till 2021. So that's why you see that debit of $6,736. So yeah, we raised it in 1 year, but they didn't accept the check until the next year. Our net income includes as I noted, our inventory of maps and books. And what else we got in here? Oh, the check for $5,330 was our donation for the park signage and art project, which we raised money for in the most recent fiscal year. And again, most of our expenses are printing and postage. We don't have a whole lot of overhead at this point. So that is the financial statement as presented. Is John Holmes? Can you unmute John?
Yeah.
And John, if you want to, again, that's a very brief summary of a lot of work that you've done. If you would want to add to that, we'd certainly take your comments. We're getting there.
He has to unmute himself first.
Okay,
Ready
Yeah,
to
I'm unmuted.
there you go.
All right, yeah, just a good summary there. I think we're in a good financial position. As you said, we've got a pretty good balance on our revenues between sales and memberships. We have a pretty healthy program this year to raise funds. We've historically been doing that aimed at a specific project as opposed to general revenues for supporting the Friends. We probably had a bit of extra revenue this year on the guidebooks because we introduced the guidebook this year. So we sold 180 of those, which gave us a pretty healthy amount of revenue. So depending on what we bring out this coming year, I expect our revenues to be a little bit less or even with what we did this year.
Any questions for John? I know that was hard to hear and I apologize. I should have plugged the mics in, but any questions for John from the floor? Are we getting any chat questions that we need to address, MJ? Okay. All right. With that, then I would take a motion to approve the financial statement as presented by John and myself. I got, and Andy is a member.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you. So Andy moved. Do I have a second? And Hank seconded. We have a motion. Hang on here. Let me do this piece. Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. And I'll throw in my 64 proxy votes.
Or more, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, it's more. Okay, so that motion was approved. All right. That's really the business part of the meeting. What I want to do now is kind of give you an update on what we've been doing. Some of it's behind the scenes. Hopefully it's been visible. Dave has done a really good job of presenting stuff and keeping it online. So this is my kind of a quick summary, and we may add to it as we go along. But again, this is the Otter Tooth Canyon where I'm standing, which is technically the southern boundary of the Wabikimi area as we define it. So this is the southern edge of it. If you look on the map, the Albany is the northern edge. So I'm at the very far southern edge of the area that we define. We have, as I've pointed out, our vision, our mission, but really what I want to focus on right now is our objectives. And I'm very pleased at how we've addressed that in some pretty tough, there, now you can actually maybe even read it, put it where you can see it. So let's start out. One of the objectives is to encourage a broad-based membership that will support the objectives of the organization. I think one of the things that I'm very comfortable with is that, we're only required to have the board have 25% Canadian, but the reality is the board membership is pretty evenly split. It's about 50%. As noted, and thank you, Ken, for being here. We have 5 time zones and on 2 continents. And so we've got a fairly diverse board. We also have pretty good gender balance. I mean, there's some other, we need to diversify from a racial standpoint. I gotta be honest, I think it'd be good if we could get some indigenous, more indigenous membership and board representation. So those are future goals. But right now, we're a very evenly split board. And I think we have a relatively active board. We still have a few, I lost track of my math.
We have 3 openings.
We still have openings on the board. So moving forward, we'd still like to fill those board positions going forward. But I think we've created a broad-based membership. And again, the fact that we've gone from when I came on, we only had like 77, and through Dave's work in a lot of different ways, we're up to 258 and growing. We actually reached the point. Yeah, and actually
around 275
at this point, yeah,
right now.
as of what we've done here at Canoecopia, yeah, which means it's one of the issues going forward is our database only holds to a certain number, and when we exceed that, the cost of updating that membership, that database is going to be a financial question. But we're not quite there. Dave's moving stuff around, but it's going to be a question going forward. All right. Again, another point here is developing programs to further public awareness, understanding, and appreciation of the resources of Wabikimi. One of the things that I'm very proud of, and that MJ has worked on this with me, is the webinar series. And I'm not going to go through all the pieces here, but we've had trip reports. One of the things that I'm very proud of is the fact that we've worked very successfully with the park staff. You notice on there, the third one down, Evan McCall, the assistant park ranger, park superintendent, made a presentation. We actually had the superintendent last year do one. MJ did a program on planning. We had some other partners, which is Ontario Nature. Julie Voren was involved there. If you missed the caribou presentation by Gary Racy, you missed quite a lecture on caribou. And then the webinar that got bombed, and we're not going to share that video with you, but we still have one more to go. And it's the ecological management challenges facing the park. And this is by Shannon Welch, who is the park naturalist, and that'll be on the 20th of March. So I encourage you to stop onto that. And We actually haven't started planning for next year, but we need to start planning for next year. So if you have a topic that you'd like to present, get a hold of myself or MJ, and we can start plugging you into the webinar series. Plus, if you have any comments or questions or recommendations, we'd certainly take it. We have tightened our security as far as who we will let into a webinar, so we don't get bombed again. But I'm very happy with this. We averaged, I think the lowest we had was in the low 20s, and MJ topped out at 60. So we had a good representation at our webinar. So very happy with that process. And picking another objective: encourage and support volunteer stewardship initiatives. Well, we've got a variety of committees. Cartography Committee, which we have. You said Victoria and Ian is on the call.
Steve's, yeah.
Could Vic? Go,
Victoria?
yeah. Victoria or Ian, could I ask you to just talk about the Cartography Committee if you're okay with that? We'll unmute you.
Oh, is Ian here?
Yeah, is he?
Maybe not separately, he might be under Victoria, but I saw Victoria.
I asked to unmute her. She has to unmute herself now.
Sorry, it's me and Edward today. So
Sir Edward.
yeah.
Sir Edward, our youngest member. Yeah.
Yeah, so the Cartography Committee aims to really update all the maps from the planning map to the map volumes, and really just make sure all the portage information's up to date, routes, clarifying information as the Friends of Wabikimi go in and others go in to do all the routes. And so we're just really aiming to improve and update historical records as well.
Great.
Yeah.
Say hello to Edward for us.
Oh yeah, he's here.
Very good. Thank you, Victoria.
Thanks.
We also have the Rendezvous Committee, and Maurice is here. Can we unmute Maurice, and then can I put you on a spot just to talk a little bit? Oh, there's that beard. Let Maurice talk about the Rendezvous Committee. I have more information a little later on, but if you want to just kind of chat about that, Maurice, as soon as we get you unmuted.
I asked to unmute. He has to unmute himself.
You have to unmute.
Trying. Okay, am I there?
Yes.
Hi, well, as probably most of you know, a lot of our information right now is up on the website. And I don't know, Vern, have you guys at Canoecopia been selling tickets?
We haven't sold tickets, but we've handed out the flyer.
We've been handing out the flyer and promoting it.
Okay, so as everybody knows that we're holding a 4-day event this upcoming September, beginning on Thursday, which would be the 8th, I believe.
Right.
And that starts off in Thunder Bay, where we're going to visit one of Thunder Bay's favorite breweries, and we're going to have a meet and greet. And there we will have a couple presenters with Ostrom Outdoors. They'll be having their canoe packs there. We'll have a paddle maker there doing displays. The following day, we're all going to go to Old Fort William, and we'll have options such as riding the large canoes and a brigade coming into Old Fort William. If you have not been to Old Fort William, it's quite a spectacular historical site to visit, and it's all influenced heavily by canoeing for the old fur trade era. So it's very interesting to us. Followed that, we will be heading off to Armstrong and heading up to Wabakimi Canoe and Fishing Outfitters. And this is the father of Wabakimi, Mr. Bruce Heyer. We'll be staying at his Echo Lodge. And that Friday night is just going to be a meet and greet again for everybody to gather. And then Saturday morning, we will begin with our presentations, our guest speakers. We will then be having a nice fireside entertainment evening where we will have Cheyenne Horvolka as our main entertainer, and then we will have a musician's jam. Then Sunday, we will also then be having another round of guest speakers for the entire day. A lot of the information is up on the website and on the Facebook page, and we have a number of guest speakers that are very, very interesting to get you excited about it. They're all posted, and there's still another 3 or 4 to be confirmed.
Very good. And would you like to have more help on the committee?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things unique about this is that it is a 4-day event. So we start off in Thunder Bay, which is a mid-sized city in northwestern Ontario. There are plenty of hotels and campgrounds available for people to select. But once we get up in Armstrong, staying up at the Echo Lodge, we have a choice of there are some rooms available, but it's mostly camping. But what we're going to ask is that everybody, we hope, will offer to do some type of volunteering on site in Armstrong. That begins with everybody will be expected to bring their own cutlery and dishes. So we're going to have a wash station. We'll need people to help with that, to help the daily clean. So we'll have a listing, more information to come, and we would hopefully that people would be able to register to do things like site maintenance, site cleanup, helping move chairs around and so forth. So lots of simple jobs are needed on site, and we still can accommodate a number of people who would like to help on the committee on the planning, organizing. We could still use a few more members of people if they're so
Very good.
interested in helping.
Thank you. We'll make sure that Dave will make sure that all your contact information is available for those who want to volunteer. Yeah. Thank you, Marie. Conservation Committee, Ray, you want to add a comment about that? About the Conservation Committee?
I'm just appreciative. I'm happy to serve as director or whatever you call it, but all the heavy lifting, almost all the heavy lifting has been done by a whole lot of others. And Vern has really taken an interest in the community and very successfully sort of gotten interaction, not only of the government entities, but also of outfitters and conservation entities in Ontario, and I think that's pretty constructive. The friends not only, a real main thing is the enjoyment and appreciation of the wonderful Wabakimi area, but at the same time recognition it's a very special ecological region. Problems, economic and development problems, by bringing out interaction with Ontario nature, concerns in Canada, Jerry Mason, who's, I would also say that if you want to learn about caribou, it'd be hard to listen to somebody other than Jerry Mason. Really learn a lot.
And he will be at the rendezvous.
Yes. So it's an interesting and ongoing issue in a lot of respects. We're very happy to have the park. The crownlands surrounding the park are especially prone to, they're especially vulnerable to a number of ways. And they act as buffer region for the park. So what happens on the crownlands surrounding influences the caribou population, not only there, but in the park. So yeah, I just appreciate it. I act as director, but like I said before, a lot of the heavy lifting has been done by people. So I'm happy to be trying to assist in any way.
Thank you, Ray. And advocating for preservation of a diverse area. Well, the Expedition Committee is kind of doing some of that work. If MJ, could I let you talk about the Expedition Committee?
Okay. All right. We started off trying to
Just say talk towards the microphone.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. We started off trying to figure out how we could kind of replicate what used to be done through the project trips, given our situation, because Phil basically ran that out of his home, and it was he had the base camp, he had he had the stuff, and he stored the stuff, and he organized everything. So it was a one-person show with many people helping, and a one place, so now that's not a possibility. It's a little tougher to coordinate our efforts between two nations and people spread out all over the place. So in trying to figure that all out, we know that at this point in time, we can't exactly have project trips like we did before, but that's an ultimate goal, and we'll work towards that. So what we're doing at this point is we're encouraging self-guided expeditions, and we came up with a list of 8 general needed some immediate reconnaissance, and to see what their conditions are, because some of these areas haven't been looked at officially by anybody in our or related to our group in 10 years or more. So we need to know what the conditions are. Part of that will be shared with the Cartography Committee once we have information coming in, and hopefully we'll be able to build from here. So we're basically encouraging those self-guided trips, and picking ones that if you want to be adventurous, here's where you could go. And we are encouraging people to, I see Vern just pulled up the trip planner, which is over here. That's we want basic information coming out of those trips. If people are willing to share, we'll provide a journal that they can write in and keep track of things. And then if they're willing to share that information with us after their trip, that would be awesome, so that we could add to our database of information. At this point, we are talking about getting a database of information together. That's in the beginning stages of discussion, so not there yet. And what else have we done? Let me look at my list, because I could bring my list of things that we managed to accomplish so far. We did look at our prior volumes, the Wabikimi volumes, and we found mistakes, and we corrected those and added those to the books. We were, also part of the webinars in the presentation. So we figured that people were going to want to know more about how to plan trips up there and so forth. So that was a part of it. We have been, one of our biggest hangups for having a full-fledged program is insurance and liability. That's still on our agenda. We've talked about it a number of times. We've investigated that a bit, but we're not there yet.
Dave's working on that.
Yep.
Could you clarify whether or not the expeditions are sponsored by the
Right, because there's a liability issue.
So you're thinking, I'm not clear on this. Are you thinking that the organization would support financially?
I'm sorry, Phil did it, was you paid a chunk of money, and that did pay for
Transportation.
yeah, and probably some upkeep on whatever, but yeah, so it would still have to operate in a similar I wouldn't expect it to be a profit-making thing, and I wouldn't.
It might even end up
Yeah.
subsidizing it,
Yeah,
but particularly from the liability standpoint, because those costs could be substantial.
Yeah.
So we would be subsidizing it.
So really, it's the financial commitment of the organization
that we're concerned about the liability.
Oh, yeah.
Well, yeah, because
Yeah.
in the end, yeah.
Well, there's a organization in Ontario called the Ontario Canoe and Kayak Association. And if you join them as an organizational member, which I don't think is that expensive from what I saw, you have to have trip leaders and liability. There's a whole lot of organizational groups. So we would need some people that would really take the trip leader thing seriously and get trained and certified and all that. And that would probably be the biggest challenge, with getting people that would commit to make that level commitment. And then all the trip leader protocols, eyes.
Yeah.
The bigger question is that the route you want to take?
We don't almost.
If members such as let's say myself,
Yeah.
we're back. You know, that's on my side.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So it seems to me that's a really large step.
Yeah, it's a very large.
It's a very.
So, yeah, that's why we haven't taken it. That was created from Phil's trips.
Mhm.
I mean, you start chatting with the people in the back of this room, you know, they all remember their, whatever it is, 4 or 5 trips. And that experience, that was that. And that's part of the reason we're creating the Rendezvous, is to recreate that networking and camaraderie that you get when you spend time in the bush. We haven't had that since Phil passed in 18. And so we've had to find other ways to accomplish it. But I think it's also a way, in my opinion, to get people out there who maybe are a little, or who need that support, who aren't that capable of organizing their own trips into a relatively wild area. So I think it's a way to also expand the membership in the organization by hand. And I'm not saying we do 40 or 50 trips. It might be 2 or 3 trips a year.
And we would almost need a coordinator to help organize everything too.
Correct.
And the point is, as soon as you put a friend's name on a trip, then becomes a liability to the whole organization.
Correct.
That's the point that they have to cover.
Yeah. And you're right. It's a big leap, and we haven't made it because we haven't got worked out the details. Good point.
Yeah, I mean, I just bring it up because I'm a member of other organizations that have the same issues. And when it comes down to responsibility of like the leaders,
Yep.
you know,
Yeah.
it's such a big step, and you have to be so darn careful.
Well, and that's what we're chasing down is, there are some policies and procedures that other organizations have figured it out, and Dave's been tracking that, and they've been successful in being able to do that. They're leading trips, but they also have pretty standard operating procedures that are pretty tight. I lead trips, and what I'm learning from this process, there's all kinds of gaps in my leadership style, things that I just kind of took for granted, and I'm going, whoa, I need to cover that. So if we do this, it's going to have to be pretty tight laced, and it's going to cost. There'll be some costs associated with it. So we haven't made that leap yet. But good questions.
Mhm. So in the meantime, it's the reconnaissance trips. And
One more question, Brent, those 8 areas that you identified, is that on the website?
yes, they're listed. I don't remember which page, but yes, it is.
You know, we have a trip page, a self-directed reconnaissance trip page. We listed some trips we'd like to see done, and some of us are working on a spring trip in the Big River area. That's kind of
A self-guided trip, not a Friends of Wabikimi trip.
that's right. It's correct.
Beth, could I get you to hand out the committee spent a lot of time working on this little guidebook, because it has what it helps you do is organize how you gather the information so that the Cartography Committee can use that information, update maps. So please share this with friends and family. I'm trying to get rid of that box. If you want more, take them with you. I don't really want to take that back to Waterloo, Iowa, if I can help it. But that, I believe that's also on the website too, the outline for this.
Yes. it is.
But if you're going to take a trip, please kind of follow our format and gather the information so that we can use it to keep the maps up to date.
And really, this booklet is just something that you can have in hand to write on. The one online is digital that you can enter in to send
Yep.
to us. So that's great. And we've had quite a number of people turn those in. So that's been really helpful.
Yep.
And we do have trip reports on the online as well. That's a pretty good resource.
Thank you, MJ.
Okay.
Anyone want more?
Yep, please take them home with you. The other piece, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm going to keep talking while you hand this stuff out. That's all right. The other thing I think we've been very successful at, and the most recent was the legacy debris cleanup, which I think has been very successful. And again, I think a couple levels to this. One, we built in the project a line of communication with the park staff, and that line of communication was not in place previously. In fact, during Phil's era, there was, I'll use the word conflict between that and the park. They had a different park superintendent. There wasn't really a working relationship, and correct me if I'm wrong on that. And so,
No.
okay, well, all right. It's one of the, I get every now and then, every hog finds an acorn every now and then. So I've worked hard to work on that relationship. And actually, Ray was with me. We stopped in the office with Shannon Lauer and spent time talking to him, and we built a relationship. And so when we said we want to help you, and they finally came back with a project, and this is the project they came back with, which was the basically hauling out the debris that's been scattered across the landscape. Again, Wabikimi wasn't always a park, and there was stuff that's been out there for a long, long time. And so in 2022, there are two backcountry rangers went out to 4 different lake complexes, and what they did was you can see some of the debris here. They had to haul it to some access point where they could fly it out. You had to have a place where the plane could land. Basically what we paid for was the flight. And so what they did, and the pilot, and you can kind of barely get a sense of how much debris came out of there. It was a huge amount of debris that got hauled off, hopefully recycled. And again, I think for me, the most important part was the partnership with the park. And with the upper management. And we actually, who was the gal in Petersburg that you worked with on the cards? We had a pretty good relationship with their front office once we got past COVID. Right. And so we actually, we're starting to build relationships with the park staff, and this was an important part of it. So this was big. But the other piece of it is just because the way debris is scattered across the landscape, they chose areas where they were going to be successful, where they could bring it to a central location and have a place they could land the plane. There's going to be we dialogued with them quite a bit. Could we help with that? And they weren't very comfortable letting us do that. So we didn't do this the second year because they thought they hit the areas that they could be effective in. So I don't know that we'll do this again, but it was successful. And then we also did a fundraiser for the park sign, and we paid for that. And I'm still working on the art, which I haven't got an RFP out for yet. So that's on my to-do list after I leave here. Another advocating for the I'm sorry. I'm rolling. I'm sorry.
I just want to ask a question about that legacy debris cleanup. I'm assuming that there's a difference between debris and like historic artifacts. So there's some things that maybe are old enough that they want to leave them on the landscape as part of the history area?
Well, you saw the kind of stuff coming out. Basically, it's cash boats. That's really what they were hauling out. Yep. So I don't know specifically what you're making reference to, but we didn't have any discussions about historical objects out there, and basically it was just boats. There's some other stuff, but boats and garbage. Yeah.
I asked that same question to the guy who spoke about that, and he said no. There is no, like in the boundary waters, if there's like really old tin cans from the Conservation Corps, they'll leave it. They call it legacy debris here, but it's different there. They just swarm it out. They don't differentiate.
Does that answer your question? Okay. campaigning for the preservation, ecological. I think as Ray made reference to, I'm actually on the local community committee for the forest management plan for the area, the Crown land north of Armstrong, which is the map that's on the wall. Now don't tell Robin I ripped her map. But anyway, we've got maps of that area. There are five forests, Crown land forests that surround the park, and they're all in different cycles as far as planning their 10-year management plan. Right now, the area north of Armstrong is in the planning stage. It's a 2-year process, and they create local committees to provide input to that process. And to my knowledge, I'm the only American on one of those committees, which has been kind of awkward at times. They don't quite know what to do with me. But we partnered with Bruce Heyer, who has very strong feelings about forest management. We have partnered with Ontario Nature, and so we're playing a role in that park management plan. As I noted, the area north of Armstrong is basically volume 5 of our map, and again, that kind of shows you where it's at. And I'm not going to go into any depth and detail here, but like, for example, the area that I pointed out here, that's going to be logged this winter. That's actually very close to the Dalton Lake, and it's between Dalton Lake and Caribou Lake. That's going to be logged this winter. That's what the green indicates. There are roads that are being built. Some of them are primary roads, which could be on the landscape for a generation or two, and others are secondary roads, which will hopefully be erased. And so my general view of what I'm trying to do is maintain a sense of wilderness. The logging is going to happen. I don't know that we're going to stop that as part of the income, and that's how they make a living in that part of the world. But I'm trying to maintain that sense of wilderness and that exceptional wilderness destination. One of the things that I think we were successful on is maintaining bigger buffers. They have what are called areas of concern. That's what that map makes reference to as recreational areas. They're required to maintain a certain buffer on the logging from the shoreline and from portages and so forth. And so we've actually extended some of those buffers in places, and we're making them very aware that these are actually actively used recreational trails and that they need to be protected. And let me see what else I got here. I get
question.
Go, Ray, go.
And just to add a bit on that, this is one area where when you go on a recreational trip, you also turn in information for cartography. When you have those portages and routes on the maps, those can go into values, they're called values maps.
Which is the map I'm showing you right now.
A lot of that's been done, but once you have that on the values maps, that's evidence that forest planners are supposed to.
Correct.
And hopefully people who actually do the work on the ground, forest planners are supposed to take into consideration those values and respect what's called the buffer.
Yeah, it's the area of concern, and it's a buffer, and you can get a bigger buffer if there's an area of concern or recreational value in that area. Yep. And so, one of those areas that is of concern right now is Dalton Lake, or I'm calling it the Dalton Block, which is on as I noted, I believe map 5. But if you'll note there at the south end of the Dalton Block, this is just east of Big Lake. You can see all the secondary roads from previous logging. And what you don't realize is when you paddle is how much logging is all around you. You just don't realize because there is a buffer. So this is not a wilderness area. The Crown land is not a wilderness area, but it has a wilderness sense just because of those buffers. And so I think it's important that we maintain that. But the other piece is, and this is where a lot of dialogue is going on, is the primary roads, the roads that'll be on the landscape for more than a generation. Those really do take away from the wilderness experience. The other side of it is they provide access for paddling. And so part of our challenge is going back and forth. I want to have access to get my canoe in there, but I don't want a road going right by Dalton Lake. So that's what we're struggling with here. And so there's a fine line, but that's what we've been pushing. And we can talk more after the meeting. Yeah, go ahead. Hank.
Just a side question. Does anybody here in the room know the correct pronunciation of
Dave does.
The Wabakimi,
Nuping.
Say that slowly and clearly.
Wabakimi, and that's what it's like to do.
That's
I'm
certified.
not sure, that's not certified.
No. Or the WNF.
I was proposing Wabnu or the area formerly known
As the Armstrong, formerly known as the Armstrong Fort. I support the indigenous name. I just struggle with pronunciation, so. Yep. Again, back to the protecting natural areas, the partnership I mentioned with Ontario Nature. I'll go through this fairly quickly, but they are working with the goal of the country of Canada and the province of Ontario to have 25% of their landscape in some sort of protected status by 2025. That's a huge goal. And so what they're doing is they're taking nominations from the public as to areas that should be protected. A couple of areas that we have nominated, one of which is the Mishnikau Valley, which is the area between the Albany River and the park. And some of you in the room have been down that. It's a wild area, and it's not part of an organized crown land. It's part of the northern. So, and there's some mining interests in there. So we have, this doesn't mean it's going to get protected, but we have nominated it for protection. We put that stamp out there into the world. The other piece that we have been in cooperation with, this is in the black spruce forest, and it's actually the Otter Tooth Creek. And what you're seeing there in the color, the red, those are areas that the Ontario Nature has recommended be put into some sort of protected status under the Sustainability Council recommendation. There's a stamp of good housekeeping for forestry that requires you to take a look at, are there areas within your management unit that should have long-term protection, not maybe formal protection, but just informal protection. And so they've been identifying areas. If you went to my presentation, either the one that got bombed or the one I did here, talking about Edward Umferfield, his voyage of 1784, he went down the area of Survey Creek, and to me that should be part of the protected area just from a historical standpoint, but it also fits into this jigsaw puzzle of areas surrounding the Otter Tooth Provincial Park that should be protected. So we've nominated that, and probably more important is the area in the forest known as Armstrong. We've identified areas, and I'm just arbitrarily calling them the Campbell Triangle, which is basically the area north of Caribou Lake, the Doe Fawn Complex, which is actually the entryway into the Boiling Sands off of Tamarack Lake, and then what I just made reference to earlier, the Dalton Block. For conservation reserve status. And now I'm not getting much tailwind on this from the ministry staff. We submitted that in our phase 3 comments for the forest management plan. I had a meeting with 6 or 7 ministry staff, and they basically say that the Ministry of Forestry and Natural Resources has no control. They do not designate conservation reserves. And so we've got to figure out how to get into another silo to have that conversation. They did buck it up to the regional manager, but I don't think that's going to go anywhere. But we're having those discussions. And the thing that I think that we will have an impact on is dealing with roads. We have strongly recommended that the roads that are put in are basically removed when it's all said and done. And if you spend any time talking to Bruce Heyer or listening to Gary Racy, they will tell you that any linear structure that's left on the landscape creates pathways for predators and is a negative. And so you want those secondary roads need to disappear. And Racy has written, God, whatever, a 14-page document on how to do that properly. So there's a lot of information on that. So that's the one thing I think we can push and will be successful. Creating new conservation reserves is problematic. That's going to be a challenge, but it's out there and you never know. And I can go into more detail after the meeting about some of those bits and pieces. That's why I brought the maps so you can actually visually see it. So we're pushing those topics. Again, on that same topic, one of the things that I just sent in to the resource management coordinator, one of the questions I asked is that the province of Ontario has signed an agreement with the federal government of Canada for a caribou conservation policy. And part of that policy says that there should be an insurance, that's the language, insurance policy. Here's the quote here. Caribou population health criteria in the insurance policy will use best range level management information. And really what that's saying is that they need to be aware of what the current caribou population is as they develop forest management plans and other projects. And so I'm asking for the people that are putting the forest management plan together, what is your, well, here it is, here's the question. How is the Ministry of Natural Resources applying this principle to the forest? And they have to give me a formal response. I haven't got it back yet. And it may come up in a future LCC meeting. So they may be afraid of Bruce Heyer, but they're getting tired of me, if that makes any sense. So my point is we're pushing the envelope. I don't know where it's going to take, and we'll try and keep you in the loop. A lot of nuances, a lot of information. The whole forest management process is very convoluted, very bureaucratically oriented, and probably to lose people in it. And I have to admit, I get lost in it. But I'm having meetings with them. They have to talk to me. They have to respond to me. So does it make a difference? I don't know. We'll see in the long run. I'm trying to get you going here. Programs of public awareness. Again, the rendezvous and the photo contest. And I think Maurice did a very good job of talking about that. I'm not going to overemphasize that, but it is a new opportunity. And as we pointed out, Berlin, we need to meet, network, and have that camaraderie. And we think this is an opportunity to do it. It's not a field trip, but it is an opportunity. And we've got some great speakers lined up, and we've got ministry staff lined up. We've got park staff lined up. There's great entertainment. The details are out there. They're on the table up here, and they're also on our bulletin board in the lobby. And this is when Maurice had a trim beard, but he is the chair on this. He's doing a lot of work, and he needs your help if you want to join that process. And keep going here. Raising money, business sponsors. We have, there is at least, Bruce Heyer is here. We had Paddle Planner earlier. These are our business partners. Canoeing.com, we have they sell our product, and they also post our trip reports, and we pass stuff back and forth. So we're building relationships with the ecotourism world, and there's not a lot of cash flow here, but there are partners. And be real honest, Bruce has been a very good partner in the forest management, and the rendezvous will be at his facility, so we're going to partner with him on the rendezvous.
I'm staying in East Lake Cabin.
Yeah. Comment or, oh, okay, you're just trying to stay awake. I'm moving faster. I'm going, okay. And then again, as I think John pointed out, our canoe guide, which was put together by Laurence Mills. This is I think is an excellent tool to help people organize a trip, because before it was information scattered all over the place, and what Laurence has done is put it all in one spot. So I encourage you, if you haven't got one, to get one. And again, it's available in the lobby, which then takes us to the Phil Cotton Legacy Award. And we created this in 2020 to recognize the founders of the organization, the people who are making contribution. And you can see in 2020, we recognized the 4 original signatures, the incorporators of the Friends of Wabikimi. In 2021, we recognized Debbie Doyle for her efforts. And, you know, she's kind of a founding parent. Well, and so, this award recognizes the memory of Phil and all the work he did on the project, and to create the Friends of Wabikimi to carry out his legacy. And so we're going to recognize some more people, one more person this year. And we'd like to recognize Laurence Mills for his work in putting together, he has a history of making maps. The WabakimiMaps.com was his company. And what I always found when I was planning trips is I would buy the Friends maps, but I also needed his maps because there's gaps in our maps. You put them together, you start to have a complete picture. And his maps are very well done. And he said he's willing to help work with our Cartography Committee and to continue to upgrade our maps. So he's continuing with that. Again, there's the WabakimiMaps.com. And again, his most recent contribution was a canoe guide, which was a labor of love. It's something he always wanted to do. He couldn't afford to do it. The only way to do it is to self-publish. We picked up those costs. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gotten done. And as John mentioned, we are selling those. Hopefully, we'll sell some more. I think this is a high-quality product, and it gives you the information you need to plan a trip. So with that, I recognize Laurence Mills with the Philip James Cotton Legacy Award for his work promoting the getting people into the backcountry at Wabikimi. Yay! Thank you, Laurence. I don't know if Laurence on the call. I don't think he is, but I did let him.
You know, he had this really nifty little, because I bought his nifty little guide to the Copper River.
Yeah.
Which used to be like almost like a hand thing you carry. It was really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. And I think, and he provided the information people needed to get in there. So I think he's made a valuable contribution. Comments, questions, inappropriate responses. Is the bomber there?
No.
I mean, we could let him in and then we could really end the meeting with a blast here, but.
Oh, hold on, is there a question there?
Yeah, have you got some chats?
Yeah, hold on, what's that? Was that last comment? Nice work, great recognition.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Well, if there aren't comments, and we'll hang around, the board wants to say thank you. Again, we're scattered all over 5 time zones, so it'll be a rare event if we all get in one room, but the board says thank you.
Dave has something.
Oh, go Dave.
I'm just
Hey, Dave, talk to the.
and ask.
Yeah.
We're a volunteer organization. And so we need volunteers. We need we need another US person to serve on the board. We're looking for another Canadian person to serve on the board. We have our committees and all the things that we're working on. So if you're interested in becoming a little more involved, let us know, drop us an email or talk to us in person. We need your involvement because that's what we are. We're volunteers. We got Bill Pyle does a lot of work for us, sending out our map products. We couldn't do it without him. Debbie up in Thunder Bay, and we're getting new people involved like Vince and Bruce, and so it's a great organization. I've made so many friends, but we need more involvement, and we need you to help us in any way, small way that you might feel fits into your time and energy. That's my pitch.
One more item, you maybe could speak about this. We talked about regional get-togethers. We didn't discuss that.
Yeah, go ahead,
Yes.
Go ahead, MJ.
I'm sorry, yeah, thank you. We talked about, and it kind of goes back to your question, Berlin, earlier about, knowing the people in your area. And we wanted to encourage local gatherings because we only get together like this, so rarely, that when we looked over the list of members and tried to look for groupings or chunks of population members and where they're located, and there are chunks around Toronto, chunks around the Minneapolis area. There's even an Iowa chunk. But we would like to encourage.
I prefer hunk, but okay.
We would like to encourage anyone in those areas to, just, you don't have to do much, just put it out there or let us know that you would like to host, and by host I mean designate a place, a eating place or a drinking establishment that people gather at to, toss ideas around and just, get to know each other a little bit, so that, and we could advertise it for you. We don't know to what degree membership want to share their personal information that's out there, but we can advertise it for you, so that people in the area who see that can know that that's something that's going on in their area. So we don't know what to call those gatherings, but you can make up your own name and get together, and it would be a good time.
Take photographs and let us know what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we can put it on the website.
Great idea. I've already made some contacts here that I wouldn't have made if I didn't come to this meeting.
Right.
I'm wondering if there's any way to publish a map with dots for people.
Oh, there's an idea.
Yeah, and then you wouldn't have to give the detailed information, but you could somehow make that available for contact. Maybe make that.
Technically, I don't know how to do it. But I'm sure there's a way.
There's a way. Bill used to do it on his old
Yeah.
websites. I don't know how it's done, but.
Let me think on that one, Jim, and we'll, yeah.
So if somebody like, say in Madison, Wisconsin wants to have a meeting, if we have a list of cities and towns and zips, we can sort our list and generate special list for.
Well, and a quick example of this, I put on a paddle event in Waverly, Iowa in January. And so what I'm going to invite is the Wabikimi people, and we'll just have a session at that paddle event. So it's something I'm already doing. I'll just put a spot on the calendar, and we'll do a Wabikimi, whatever it is, and people can talk about where they're going or just sit around and bullshit, whatever it is they want to do. So I think there's ways to build that camaraderie. But please share it with us so that we can share it with the rest of the organization. Go ahead.
Vern, you talked about having a Toronto presence. Where's that stand?
Well, we've had, the way the bylaw is set up, legally, we can have a meeting here in Madison, we can have a meeting in Minneapolis or someplace else in Canada. That's the way Phil set up the bylaws. To my knowledge, we've only had one meeting in Toronto. I believe Phil did something in 16. But we haven't, and half our membership is in Canada, and we're a Canadian organization. To me, we should have a meeting in Ontario. But it's just the logistics are problematic, and be real honest, we're going to need to have somebody on the Canadian side help make it happen. The folks that are here, you have some sense of what it takes for us to have a presence here. This is I don't want to say Herculean effort, but it's a lot of energy to get a booth and do this. If we're going to do it somewhere in Toronto, we'd have to have a venue, and we'd have to have somebody on the ground to support it.
We're reaching the Canadian audience through Facebook. There's some big Ontario canoe tripping, Ontario backcountry paddlers, Canada canoe tripping, and so we share our posts, and so I think we're reaching a wide Canadian audience that way. And Ray and some other people will post on myccr.com every once in a while. So there are ways to reach the Canadian paddling community.
It's just not face to face.
Not face to face.
Which we hope the rendezvous will do to a very small, I mean, we only have 60 people, so we're not going to have a big crowd there.
We're trying to find more people in the Thunder Bay area to kind of rebuild more of a base in that area. We're making slow progress with that.
Is there anybody on virtually that wants to has a comment or?
I've been asking. Let me see.
We're all good. A big thank you to Vince to be our gatekeeper. He's got the finger on the trigger. If you try and bomb us, he's going to shoot you. So I really appreciate the technical input that Vince is, because we were very worried this meeting would not be secure, and I think it's been very secure. So
You're getting applause online.
it's so heartwarming. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
How do they do standing up?
I see 15.
15, okay, great.
Yep.
Hi, everybody.
With unless there are more comments or questions, I would take a motion to adjourn, and we certainly can sit around and talk some more, particularly talk about the maps on the wall. But I think we've accomplished the goals of that Ontario set out for us as a nonprofit. So if I have a motion to adjourn the meeting. Doug moved. Do I have a second? Mr. Otto second. All in favor, say aye. I throw my 64 votes in. I like that power. I really. Thank you for those proxy votes, by the way.
It's hard to get it to smile, so we succeeded.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. Again, if you want to chat about the maps and want more information about the logging, I mean, that is probably the best tool I have to share with what's going on, is what's on the wall right there. So.
Thank you for the organizers.
Thank you. And I need to stop recording. I got the applause, so we're